hear more about the council in a minute, but I want to take time to acknowledge Mimi Drew, Governor Scott's representative on the Restore Council, and thank her and the other council members for taking time out of their busy schedule to join us tonight. Mimi, like many of us in this room, I expect, has been intimately involved with this event since the explosion of the Deepwater Horizon rig nearly 3 years ago. Until recently, we spent most of our time looking back, trying to understand the nature of the economic and ecological effects associated with this tragic event that caused 11 deaths and significantly affected many thousands of lives. Tonight, we focus on looking forward. Passage of the Restore Act has created a unique and unprecedented opportunity for us to come together and develop a plan to restore, conserve, and protect the Gulf Coast region. The Council, which was established by the Restore Act, is charged with developing a comprehensive plan to provide for the restoration of the Gulf of Mexico. Florida's seat on the Council is a way of ensuring that our interests are fairly considered and represented when the Council deliberates how to spend the funds that it receives from any penalties resulting from the Deepwater Horizon disaster. In planning for the future, we will have the opportunity to think regionally, examine by watershed, look at the big picture, and come up with ways to restore and enhance the Gulf waters and watersheds. While many of us approach this planning effort from different perspectives, we share a common appreciation of how important the Gulf of Mexico is to Florida. It supports the livelihood of local residents, helps to support a statewide economy, and creates a wonderful place for visitors who come in the thousands every year. Tonight, we challenge you to be visionary, think about the big picture, bring us creative ideas, and try to imagine what the region should look like now and in 10, 20, and 50 years. This is our time to come together and imagine a future in which the Gulf environment and economy are thriving. I look forward to working with all of you in accomplishing this effort. Thank you.
Next up, Justin will give us the big picture from the Department of Commerce.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening. I want to first make sure that the technology here works. Good, it does. I have a little PowerPoint that I'm going to go through in my comments. But first, thank you for being here. As introduced, I'm Justin Aaronworth from the Commerce Department, and I bring greetings on behalf of the chair of the Restore Council, Rebecca Blank, who also expresses her appreciation for everybody being here tonight. I want to thank my fellow council members and those who are representing other council members who are here with us tonight, and thank everybody who put this event on. These public meetings are incredibly important to this process, and they take a fair bit of work. So we're really grateful to everybody who helped out. This is actually the final in a series of public meetings we've been having across the Gulf. So we started a couple of weeks ago in Mississippi, had a few meetings in Louisiana. We had a large one in Alabama a couple of months ago, and we're in Texas last night. So it's great to be here and to be with you. I promise I want to keep my comments pretty brief, because what we're really here to do tonight is to hear from you. And without question, that's by far the most important thing that's brought us all here. As was mentioned, we on the council really see this as an absolutely unique and unprecedented opportunity. Of course, it comes from a terrible disaster, but it is a remarkable opportunity that we are just hyper-focused on doing the right thing and figuring out how to set ourselves up for success. And the point that I'll continue to come back to is that in order to do that, in order to succeed and meet that mission, we're going to need all of your help. And being here tonight is an important part of that, but we're going to need your help and your involvement and your thoughts throughout this process. So please don't consider just coming here tonight. Please remain involved in the process as we move forward. I have to say one thing before I get into the slides. I see several of you have the buttons from that say "Restoring the ecosystem restores the economy." So that's something that I'm definitely going to talk about in our view of it. But I just have to tell you the quick story from a meeting in Biloxi. The person passing the buttons out in Biloxi, her name is Anique, and she's 5 years old. And she was passing it around. She was by far, everything that we had to say was all very interesting, I'm sure, but everybody loved the beautiful 5-year-old who was passing out the buttons. And when it came time for my comments, I came up and I said, that I saw her doing this, but I didn't get a chance to meet her and to get a button myself from her. Someone gave me one. And so evidently she was in the room and heard this, and she wanted to wait until the end of the meeting to give me an extra sticker. But it was the meeting went on. It was past her bedtime, so she had to go home and go to bed. But then she sent me the best letter that I've ever received, written in crayon with a couple of extra buttons in it that I have framed now. So anyway, I'll get to the substance of how important we think that message is. It's a high bar that I've never been able to get beyond the 5-year-old, the bar that Anique, the 5-year-old, set. So here are the things that I want to cover in my comments. To say a little bit about the Restore Act, but I know that many of you are very familiar with it and have been studying it closely. So say a little bit about it, a little bit about the council, talk about how the money is to move in this framework. Talk about what we really need your help with, which is developing the comprehensive plan that the Act charges us with putting out, and then again, most importantly, get to your comments. One other thing that I want to stress that the President has made very clear, that the Chair of the Council has made clear, all of us believe strongly. While some of us live in Washington, we all know that the ideas for the Restore Act. Was it something I said? Well, yeah, I guess that's good. You don't have to look at me. You can actually look at the slides. But that the ideas for what the council is to do and what we're to do under the comprehensive plan, those ideas need to come from the Gulf. They can't come from Washington, D.C. They can't come from somewhere else, which is why we believe these meetings and hearing from you is just so important. And as I mentioned, this is the last of this round of public meetings. And some of us were talking the other night of just how much we've learned from these meetings and from the comments we've received. So it really is meaningful and impactful, and I hope you'll continue to stay engaged and share your thoughts. So the Restore Act. The Act dedicates 80% of clean water, civil and administrative penalties to the Gulf Restoration Trust Fund. And I'll show a slide in a moment that says, sort of shows how it all works from there. But one thing that's just so important is to stress is that before Restore, the funds, the penalties under the Clean Water Act would not necessarily come back to the region where a spill like this took place. So Restore, it was a bipartisan effort. The delegations who helped to get it passed deserve tremendous credit. Also, many of the groups represented here tonight, many of the individuals represented who are here tonight and have been in some of our other meetings, worked tirelessly to get Restore passed, and we are just absolutely thrilled that you did it, that we got this done, and now to the work of implementing. But it is worth acknowledging what a tremendous accomplishment and bipartisan that it was. The second point on this screen says, uncertainty exists around the ultimate amount and timing of funds. This is without question the most difficult part of our task. We don't know the ultimate amount of money that we'll have for this planning effort. We don't know when we'll have it. So that makes, as just an operational matter, that makes things quite difficult. And of course, something we're trying to do our best to manage. As I'm sure many of you saw, there was a settlement announced with Transocean for $1 billion, which is of course a very important and which would be absolutely critical to our work ahead. but it is not what we anticipate the final sum to be. We're all watching the case in New Orleans with BP and other responsible parties quite closely, as I'm sure you all are as well. So let me say a little bit about the council. So it's made up of 5 Gulf Coast states. The governors of the states are the formal members from Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida. And then there are 6 federal agencies represented on the council. My department, Commerce, the Environmental Protection Agency, Department of Agriculture, the Army, and specifically there, the Army Corps is most involved. Department of Homeland Security, and there, the Coast Guard is most closely involved, and as well as the Department of Interior. The Restore Act says that the 5 states needed to get together and select a chair from among the federal agencies. And those of us in Commerce were just delighted to be selected. And I'll just tell you very briefly a little bit about the Commerce Department. I'm sure many of you are familiar with NOAA, the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration. NOAA is actually the largest part of the Commerce Department. They're very active here. I'm sure many of you work closely with them. So NOAA has tremendous expertise in coastal and ecological restoration. Also in the Commerce Department, we have something called the Economic Development Administration, which is the federal government's top economic development arm. And we also have a group called the International Trade Administration, which, among other things, focuses on travel and tourism. So the travel and tourism group for the federal government is at the Commerce Department. So as we took a look at Restore, and first and foremost being about ecological restoration, economic development, and travel and tourism, we saw this as a tremendous opportunity to really leverage the resources that we have at the department. So we're just delighted to be in this role. We're responsible for the council that I just described is responsible for developing a comprehensive plan, and that's what we'll focus on the most. We also are paying very close attention to what some of the other groups in the region are doing, and want to remain closely coordinated with them. So the NERDA process, the Natural Resources Damage process, the NIFWIF group that is their group that's going to have a very, very important role here from the criminal settlement. We are endeavoring to be very closely coordinated to ensure that there isn't duplication among our efforts and that we maximize the opportunity that's before us. So this chart here, and I'll see if this pointer works. It does. I'll just go quickly through how the money will flow. So the ultimate amount of Clean Water Act penalties, which at the moment stands at $1 billion with more to be determined, that represents the main box here. 20% of that goes to the Oil Spill Liability Trust Fund. Before the Restore Act, 100% would go to this trust fund. But with Restore, now 80% of it goes into this newly created trust fund. And then from this 80%, from the ultimate amount that we'll have in the Restore Act framework, there are five buckets, and I have to always say this. There are some people who feel very strongly that these should be called pots. Other people think they should be called buckets. I'm sure there are other names, so if I say buckets, don't get mad at me, because that's just what I think of them. So there are these 5 buckets here. The first is 35% of the money will be equally distributed between the 5 states, and the council that we represent will not have a big presence in that bucket. That's really for the states. Where the council will be most active are in these second 2 buckets here, and where we'll be most active and really focused on tonight is in this first 30% bucket, which is the comprehensive plan that we have to write. Each state will then have there's 30% here that's for the oil spill impact bucket, and each state there will get an allocation and writes a plan that comes to the council for approval. And then there are 2 smaller buckets, but incredibly important ones. 2.5% for a science and monitoring program that NOAA is to run, and 2.5% for centers of excellence in each of the 5 states. Going back to really what we want to hear the most from you about this evening is developing the comprehensive plan. If you haven't seen it yet, I hope you'll have a chance to take a look at a document we put out in late January called we call it our Path Forward document, which really articulates the manner in which the council plans to move forward, the manner in which we plan to develop the comprehensive plan. And I should stress that it builds on some very good work that's taken place. I'm sure many of you have been coming to a lot of meetings over the last 3 years. I'm sure many of you were involved in the Gulf Coast Ecosystem Restoration Task Force. The task force that was led by EPA put together a very, very good strategy paper at the end of 2011. Our work builds on top of the strategy. And when I get to the goals in a moment, you'll see that in a very, very, very clear way. So we build on top of a lot of the work that's taken place to date. And this Path Forward document shows our deliberations to date, which really amount to this meeting and other conversations like it. What the Path Forward does not do, what we have not done yet, is outline specific projects or programs to be funded. That of course, is going to come later. So here are the 5 goals that we set out in the Path Forward document that will guide our work in developing the comprehensive plan. The first 4, for those of you who are involved in the task force, will look very familiar because they are the task force goals. The first is to restore and conserve habitat. The second is restoring water quality. The third is to replenish and protect living coastal and marine resources. And the fourth is to enhance community resilience. Because of restore and how it's different than the scope that the task force had, we've added a 5th goal, which is to restore and revitalize the Gulf economy. And as the buttons that many of you are wearing show, our view... Oh, did we go dead? Aha. No, not back. Well, you'll have to take my word for the slides unless someone knows. I'll let you